The Hail Varsity Radio Saturday morning show. Strap yourselves in. Here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt.
Y'all don't even know he was a virgin until he's 28, and now, roll tide.
And Mark Kraynak.
Time has come for someone to put his foot down. And that foot is me.
Welcome to it, weekend editions here at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. 3 hours and change till you get college football in Ireland, Florida State, Georgia Tech. 1 week, and it is Nebraska. UTEP, your 2024 college football season. Our dear friend Brian Snitley with the Boulder Peace Treaty has it right. I don't have anything on the griddle this morning, but he says it is time for kickoff with breakfast, beers, and football. Coffee is being made right now, Elijah, but good to have you in. Mark Kraynak back from his assignment. We'll get locked and loaded and try and decide, what Nebraska's record is this year as we will do our predictions. Sure to go wrong. We'll make our predictions for 2024 this morning.
Oh, God, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, we'll be ready to rock and roll. Or do you need another week, Kraynak, to go ink versus pencil? Now we lost you.
Oh, no.
Now we lost you. Now we still lost
Now
you.
we're back.
Okay. How are you, dude?
Well, obviously discombobulated and not having my tech in order. I'm getting that stuff all set right now. You got to check your sound and everything, I didn't think you'd go so quick. I mean, Elijah just sent this thing. God, when did he send it? He just sent it like 7:51, the link, and then we're already in the show. I was just like, man, there's no like grace period here.
There's no buffer zone.
Sometimes in life, you just got to rock and roll because you promised the people 7:45 and it's not 7:45.
I don't know about promise. I never promised anything.
They
no guarantees in life. We're teaching people a lesson. I don't know.
The stream folks do have fun wagering the actual start time. As we end Friday's show, there will be 7:51s, 7:53s, 7:49s put down. Bets will be placed, and it's not too far off. But good to have everybody. Matt Rule spoke yesterday. We'll hear a couple of clips from Coach Rule with his excitement level for 2024. Kraynak, you taking Junior to Fan Day today? You guys doing that tonight?
No, not going to do that today. It's for a couple reasons. And it's been a little while. We even got quoted in the paper last time I did it, which was great. Got interviewed. Oh, yeah. I figured at that point. I figured at that point you don't need to go anymore. Dad and son both got quoted, and no, but I don't think we're going today. I like it. I get it. It's also kind of a pain, though. Let's be honest. Like, oh, you want to meet the running backs? Cool. Stand in line for an hour and a half, and then just finally make your way through. So you can pick like 2 position groups, maybe 3. With how many people there are. And it's not the university's fault. It's nobody's fault. I think unless you had a 5-hour event, then, that's the only way you can really get through it all. It's just
they got to do like a Disney Fast Pass type thing benefiting NIL.
Well, exactly.
Dude, yes. It's a great idea, actually. Yeah. Or like early reservations or something, right? Like
or you just have a second Fan Day for those that spend a certain amount with $18.90.
Yeah, something like So here's the loser Fan Day. Here's the Po Folks Fan Day.
Here's the general admission Fan Day. Okay, let's not term it loser or poor folks.
Here's the Po Folk Fan Day. Everybody, you get.
Look at that's so wrong.
You get water out of the faucet. That's it. All right, that's the only refreshments we're providing.
The water we provide is from the fountain. It's not a bottled water.
No. But then on the rich people fan day, dude, you're getting runzas, you're getting some smoked sausage, you're getting some bottled water, living it up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's so good. Let's get our starting five shout outs. The other Brian is in. Good to have you. The other Brian, Moonbot, bright and early at 7:24 Central Time this morning. Rick is in. Tuck is here, reading the stream, which is nice. Brent here.
You see, Kenson, here's a complimentary sniff of the training table.
Don't sit down. Don't go there. But this is what we get to eat. That's funny. Walter from Philly is here. That's funny. I like that. So we'll have Robert check in. Red Knight 79 is in. Steven is here. Love it. Good to have Steven in. Kraynak is going to wipe his tears of laughter. Robert checks in, only 174 hours and 48 minutes till kickoff. Love that. Rule of the day is here. Patrick is in.
Here, Schmidt. You see, some of these comments are wild from before we started.
Like they were red beering it early.
Yeah. Rick even said Chris is going to have a long shout out.
Yeah, I might. Mr. Snitley says they are late, as am I, at 7:48. Larry checks in at 7:49. Tommy is here. Tommy, good to have you. And Jerry, good to check in, man. Good to see you. I would like two everything bagels toasted with jalapeno cream cheese and 2 medium dark roasts to go, please. Jonathan is here. Jonathan is in. Justin is in. Christopher is here. Jeff is getting amped. Good to have you. Elijah, I'm NASCAR Eric is here. Ken is in as well. Can you find some of the comments? I mean, I'm scrolling through. I don't know how many are already here.
There's a lot of comments, plenty of comments.
Yeah. What is find some of those of you. Kraynak, you doing all right? Can always find the show. YouTube.
I can't go. I can't put some of these wild ones up on screen.
Okay. YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube, like and subscribe there. And then Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter at HVarsity Radio is where you can find us. You can find us at the Single Barrel next Saturday ahead of kickoff for pregame, and then Real Red Reaction follows. So put that down. Pregame, are we feeling noon-ish? Does that sound right? 11:45-ish? What do you think ahead of 2:30 kick?
2:30 kick.
11:30 to 1:30 feels about right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, 11:30 to 1:30 it is.
Yeah.
Okay, 11:30 to 1:30.
Can we decide that right now?
Yeah, we're doing programming notes, right? Programming decisions.
We
right
can.
If anyone has any requests in the stream chat, what time do you think we should start?
So is that 11:37 then, or 11:38?
No, it will actually be on the radio, I think.
Well, let's see. Other Brian asking. So 11:47. So if it's on the radio,
it's a hard ass start.
Yeah, it's a hard start time.
And then we'll figure out Colorado. So Junior texted me yesterday. He and his boys at Lazari's are now avid listeners to the afternoon show, right? Especially when Dylan got announced, which is great. But he's like, "Hey, can I get Skybox tickets for Colorado?" He texted me this. Can we get Skybox tickets for Colorado? And I'm like, dude, I don't know the get-in price yet for this thing. So if you want to go, start talking to Joe Mama, Grandma Joe, about going, because Cousin Dino's widow Audrey's coming back for it. I mean, it's gonna be a whole thing. I mean, the whole Colorado Nebraska game in our household goes back years because we had family members that went to Colorado. And
you don't have skyboxes, right? You're not.
No, exactly. No, exactly.
You're a popo.
Exactly. No, we're
You
not.
don't
We're
get to go to that fan day. No.
right.
No.
I mean, my dad took me to fan day with the scoring explosion, and we waited in line. Right. I mean, we had seats in the west balcony, but it wasn't Skybox. And just because he's got a buddy or two that have Skybox tickets, he's like, oh yeah, can we get Sky? Anywho,
or is that him flexing? Is that him flexing with the other boys at Lazari? Right? Because like here's Dad on the radio, right? And so people are automatically like, oh, he must get free tickets, right? That's how people act. So, but tell me that hasn't happened over the years, right?
No.
Hasn't that happened over the years though, where people just assume like, oh, you get to go to that thing, like, oh, you report on that, you work in the media. Free tickets. Like, no, I don't get free tickets. They give me a media
free.
pass.
It's work. So
yeah.
But he ended up. I think they scored. He sent me some sort of thing, Elijah and Kraynak, that they scored 4 together. Somehow, they've got their Colorado Nebraska tickets. I don't know where. I don't know where yet. I don't think that. I pray they're not in the suite because
got to be steerage class for sure.
Someone's 401k got emptied to do that.
Wasn't it like tree fitty just to get in?
I don't know the get-in
price. That's
price.
what it was.
I'm thinking it's probably $450 to $500, isn't it?
I'll check SeatGeek.
The
official platinum.
He isn't selling crack, right, to afford this?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? You never know.
I mean, there are methods to Junior's money making, be it sneakers, gambling. I mean, he's creative.
Current entry price on the little preview before I actually landed on SeatGeek's website, $177.
That's not awful.
But that's for one seat in section 16, row 32. So that would be that's south end zone.
Okay.
I believe. Yeah. Looks
Well,
like south end zone.
They got in, which is good.
It's come down though. It was like $350 for a while.
Yeah.
Like it was. I'm bringing my lady to the Northern Iowa game.
Are you?
Her first game she's ever visited.
Okay, that's big.
California. She's native California.
Brandon Vogel. Well, Brandon Vogel's with us, and this is what the hell did I walk?
Well, not
into
native
this morning?
Californian.
Well, we'll get to our break.
California
You've picked a good game, Mark, because I think Nebraska should be able to get a win that day, and that's always the most important thing with the first Husker game.
Exactly. You remember Ireland Ted? We took him to Northwestern.
Yes, is he coming?
No, but we took him to Northwestern in 2017.
Okay,
when it was just disaster. By that point, it was
the overtime.
Everything was over. He was like, "Wow, this." He's like, "Wow, this is great." I'm like, "No, this is terrible. This is a library. Everybody's angry. That guy's getting fired. He's getting fired." He's like, "Oh, bro." He had no concept. I'm like, "Yeah, everybody's pissed off right now. Like nobody's happy." He's like, "Oh, they seem like it's because they're drinking."
Brandon Vogel with us from Counter-Read.
What did I miss on the text, by the way? The Bruce Lee of BS. What happened?
Right. Yes.
What happened?
Is this
painful? Am I dredging up a painful memory? Brandon just went to the side.
Sean Keeler.
Okay.
Let me explain it.
Yeah.
Sean Keeler of the Denver Post, who covers Colorado football. Yeah. He's a columnist.
Yeah.
Has been banned from asking questions to Coach Prime. He can still go to the games. He can still cover the team. Yeah. But those are just some phrases used in past columns by Sean Keeler towards Deion Sanders, the Bruce Lee of BS. And in hilarious fashion, Vogels is like, well, yeah, I'm coming on tomorrow, but I'm not taking any questions from Elijah.
See, and I had somehow conflated that to mean like, oh, in last week's show, at some point, Elijah decided to call Brandon the Bruce Lee of BS. And I was like, I can't imagine that went over well. And anyway, it was
didn't go over well for Sean Keeler either.
No.
No.
Vogels, how are you, man? You ready for football here in a couple hours?
I am. I took my medicine, watched the dumb, big, and rich intro to College Game Day, which was the low part of my college football season so far. But things are trending up now that we're through that.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how sober does Pat McAfee seem on College Game Day this morning?
So far, I'd say at least a 3. I didn't know they were going to Ireland. It's a pretty cool setup right there in downtown Dublin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I missed that.
He had himself a day yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw this. From his show to there's been pictures coming out of him shirtless in pubs in Dublin. Yeah,
Classic.
he's living up. He looked like Schmidt and Kraynak during their trip to Dublin.
We were behaved.
Yeah.
Mark,
Well,
Kraynak, that was a great response.
remember having a
We
few
had a-
headaches.
We had a hell of a good time doing shows over there. Let's dive into it, fellas. What is a winning season to you? Let's talk about this. We'll get the stream comments as well, Hail Varsity YouTube. But a winning season used to mean what? It used to be 9 wins. Let's dive into what a winning season looks like in 2024 in this new world of college football, where 9-3 might get you into a playoff, depending what conference you're in and who you beat in the regular season. I'll start. I think winning season to me, as I dive into your schedule, I think your new bare minimum is 7-5. That's just above the putrid 6-6. And I know Nebraska's not been in any position to cast judgment on poor little 6-6 football programs because they've not even been that. But to me, 7-5 is a winning season. That means you beat somebody that is worth a damn on your schedule. And maybe, just maybe, that includes one of your rivals or former rivals, a Wisconsin or an Iowa. So if I'm going to talk about Nebraska football moving forward in this new college football world, 2 things got to happen. You got to be more than just 500. And 2, you better get a big name pelt on your wall. You better have a win of substance. And those are the 2 things for me that equal winning season. And the third part of that is, we have a new bowl games that matter, and then everybody else's bowl games, much like the Rich fan day and then the Paul Folk fan day, as Kraynak put it earlier. You go to a bowl game, right? You're at a bowl game, and yay, you celebrate. You get your extra practices. Is that fair? Is that a good 1, 2, 3? Here's what winning season means now in college football. What's a winning season mean at Nebraska football?
I'm going to stay with my traditional definition that I've been using all year long, that what all Husker fans want from Nebraska this year is to be relevant again. I think, to me, less than putting a number on it, I'm just going to say, is Nebraska playing relevant and meaningful football games in the month of November? I'm talking, are they playing for an opportunity to either play their way into a playoff, to play themselves into contention for a Big Ten title, or are they good enough that at least the national media and folks around the Big Ten say, hey, Nebraska could take down USC, could take down Iowa, could be a player in taking teams away from potential berths to a college football playoff, taking away a potential berth to a Big Ten championship game. That's my definition. I think to get there, you probably have to be at 6 wins going into November, which is, based on what a lot of people out there are saying, a low bar for this football team. A lot of people have higher expectations than that, especially based on how the early season goes. But I'm just keeping it simple. If they're at 6 wins going into November, I think that means they have a chance to be relevant in those games, a chance to compete in those games in November, and a chance to be a team that can change the complexion of the Big Ten or the college football playoff discussion. That's my definition for what a winning season is.
Okay. And so let's just make sure we're using common vernacular, common understanding of, okay, so by winning season, we're not talking about Nebraska just this year, right? We're talking about any college football team any year. Is that sort of what we're saying? Or are we talking about Nebraska specifically?
Let's talk. I mean, you can
day.
talk about Boise or whoever you want. I'm just kind of zeroing it in on Nebraska.
But we're talking what is considered a respectable season, a successful
what's a winning six? Yeah, what's a winning season?
That you get to the end of the game on Black Friday and you say, I'm satisfied with that Husker season.
A satisfactory season. That's it. I like that word, satisfactory. Okay, so a satisfactory season, modern day college football in Nebraska. I feel like it is contextual, right? I do feel like it matters, like what your schedule is. Mm-hmm. It matters, if you're starting, if you have a super young offensive, I feel like it is contextual. But on the whole, I do feel like 7 or 8 is the new 9.
Yeah.
Right? 7 or 8 wins is definitely the new 9. There's going to be, I think there will be more peaks and valleys with transfer portal and all that. I think teams will get decimated, and they'll also get bolstered very quickly, unlike before. So you should never, I also feel like you should not stack 2 years in a row of losing football. There's almost no excuse for that anymore. If you're a blue blood, if you have resources, it's kind of how I see it. Brandon, where are you at?
I think the minimum for me in 2024 is 1-11, as long as that one's over Colorado. It would be a long haul to get to Black Friday, but once you got there, I think you'd be like, yeah, I'll take it. Now, the thing that I want to see is I don't have Nebraska going 12-0. They're going to lose games. And when they lose games, I just want them to get beat. Like, I don't want 3-9 with a positive scoring differential at the end of the year. I don't want 5-7 with minus 17 turnovers. Like, let's actually just have a football season where there's not so much required context. And I'm all about context, believe me. And to just have a year where it was like, it was 7-5, it was 8-4, and in those 4 or 5 losses, which is probably where I would have, like, if that came true, if Nebraska just lost the games that it lost and you walked away from it and you're like, yeah, the guy just made a play or something like that, instead of, well, 4 interceptions didn't help. I think that puts Nebraska in that 7 to 8 win range.
Mm-hmm. You remember how that's shifted too, by the way? Remember how we were, I think for the most part, it was, after the Riley 2017 year, especially, it was like, just be competitive. What do we got here? My liver would explode.
Walter in Philly, my liver would explode after a 1-11 season.
Yeah, you can't have that, right? It's just like, it's 5 minimum, 5 minimum. You got to be in that 5 to 8 range. You better be on the plus side of 500 football more years than not. You better not have back-to-back losing seasons. There's no excuse for that anymore. None. Like zero.
The only excuse you have for,
let's lay that out.
Well, there's a reality, and you don't have to like it. But if you have back-to-back losing seasons, you've done a couple of things. One, you've skipped development and tried to shortcut because you've had clearly nobody ready to step in worst-case scenario situations. I don't think that falls into Nebraska's even ether with this coaching staff, because look at last year, 3 quarterbacks, and really none of them had been developed for whatever reason as a thrower to fit the offense that Sat wants to run. And they still damn near went. They should have got to 6 or 7 last year, at least 6, right?
Yeah.
So you have back-to-back losing seasons. You've had the injury bug go COVID on you, okay, and then you've clearly lost a locker room, or you have crap leadership, right? I mean, those are ways you have back-to-back losing seasons.
By the way, those 3 quarterbacks,
brutal talent.
Those 3 quarterbacks, all backups this year at 3 different programs.
Yeah,
all of them, right?
And they all played and they almost won.
Purdy's a backup at Nevada, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Sims backup at ASU. Heinrich Harburg backup in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. So you had 3 non-starting Power 5 quarterbacks starting all last year for you. It's interesting.
So it can happen, but here's how it happens. And I don't think this staff's ever going to let that happen. Unless your schedule's just so crazy. And it could. I mean, it's not like you haven't seen it before, Vogues. The schedule will be stacked against you. And now you bring in 4 teams that are really could be pretty damn good in a given year.
Yeah, I mean, I think broadly, if 9 wins used to be it in a 18-team Big Ten, I think you do bring that down at least a game in terms of like what's the baseline at a place like Nebraska. That seems pretty fair to me. I mean, the schedule, we'll see. We're going to get a couple of games today, and then things kick off in earnest next week, and we'll start like seeing things from these teams actually, instead of trying to, make reasonable guesses about what they are, using whatever method it is you choose to use to do that. The schedule, like, what if Colorado comes out and hammers North Dakota State? That'd be a pretty good win. It's possible that Colorado, I mean, the range of projections for Colorado are pretty broad. So you look at that, Nebraska's a 6.5 point favorite right now. Seems fair enough, but what if it's 3 by the time you get to kickoff? Indiana's a team like that, that I think has a lot of room to move up by the time they play Nebraska. So that's the it's fun to play the schedule game, but that's also like the hard part about it. You just, some of these teams you don't know, and for Nebraska to have a losing season, like, things like that happen. I mean, we're probably never going to see something crazier than that 3-9 year in 2021 with how that happened. But it doesn't mean you can't see something close to it and get to the last game again, and then Nebraska ends up at 5-7. It'd be pretty tough. I mean, we watched this with the Frost era. Year 2, 2019, is like the closest thing to, I think, the positive energy around Nebraska football, outside energy around Nebraska football. And when Nebraska went 5-7 that year, it was all just kind of gone. By the time you get to January after that, people started talking about, is Frost on the hot seat? Does he need to? How many wins does he need in 2020? And then, of course, 2020 became what it became.
Mm-hmm. Brendan, what type of year? I guess. Let's ask it this way. What type of performance against UTEP next week? And I know this is early conversation, but what type of performance do you think puts the fan base in that mood of, okay, this is finally the year that all the bad that has happened over the past decade finally goes away and we have a good football season? What type of performance against UTEP does that in your mind?
I mean, I think a pretty, you're talking like 42-10, something in that range. And Nebraska's about, last I looked, 27.5 point favorite. I think it started around 30. I mean, it would probably need to feel like kind of one of those vintage Bo Pelini openers against, Chattanooga, or did Taylor Martinez start his career against Western Kentucky? I don't remember now, but something like that, where Nebraska would come in and be at 14-7 at the end of the first quarter, but it just kind of grew and grew from there. Yes, UTEP team's kind of tricky. Like, most of their 2 deep is new, either JUCO transfers or transfers from elsewhere. FBS, new coaching staff. They're going to try and run some tempo. So like it could get squirrely for Nebraska, but I think in terms of what one game can do against an opponent like this, you probably need to hammer the Miners pretty good to have people going into Colorado kind of worry free.
Yeah, and yeah, UTEP has 4 or 5 receivers that have played a lot of ball, that have been productive too, and are familiar with what coach wants to run because they transferred in or something like that. So yeah, you're right. They could cause a problem. They could get somebody isolated. He breaks a tackle. They could house one, right? But you would hope Nebraska would overwhelm them in the trenches, especially on the defensive line, and especially defensively with exotic blitzes and just the nature of the 3-3-5. So you're hoping Nebraska just can work them. I'll tell you, out of all the opponents for this year, though, I would say the most difficult one to peg, and you mentioned UTEP, of course, but it is Colorado. Mm-hmm. just because Colorado is like, I just feel like they are feast or famine. I feel like they're going to be an emotional team, a super emotional team, good and bad. Where if they get hot, they get rolling. Look, it's tough. Look out, But I feel like they could also fold pretty damn easily. If you jump on them good, I think you could really exploit kind of the discord that seemingly exists throughout that program, especially if you jump on them early.
Vogues, Colorado is interesting, and we get a chance to talk to Barney every week, and Elijah, you and I both kind of looked at each other when he was saying this. It's like, yeah, they're not doing a lot of tackling. They're not doing a lot of hitting. And they're this deep into camp. So I don't think next Saturday they may win, but I don't think it's going to go real well for them. Like what in the actual bleep is going on in Boulder? Because that just doesn't. I mean, Dion, you can say a lot of things about him, but he knows winning football. Like he's kind of a throwback coach when it comes to training and toughness. He's a tough dude. So if they're not hitting and tackling and doing the old Junction Boys camp tribute, that's the wrong answer getting ready for North Dakota State. And then you go to Lincoln, and then you have Colorado State. And the love affair is completely on the rocks with Dion compared to a year ago. Man, this thing could be a ball of fire.
Yeah, they're kind of walking a tightrope there. I mean, their plan is to outscore people. They'll be good in the secondary. Like if you go high takeaways there. I think they upgraded their pass rush from where they were at a year ago. So, they're only freshly back in the Big 12. But it's kind of an old school Big 12 approach of like, yeah, we'll win 38-35. That's fine. And if you can do it, you can do it. I'm curious. People can hop in the comments here though. If you're a Nebraska fan, what's the best result for you with North Dakota State, Colorado, in terms of the following week when they come to Lincoln? You want to see the Buffs roll? You want to see them get scared? You want to see them lose?
I know exactly what I want to see there. I want to see them. I want to see Colorado win, but I want to see them taken to the brink, and I want to see North Dakota State physically beat them up, like just physically beat them up. Whether that's hitting Sanders, whether that's drilling some receivers, whether that's wearing out linebackers.
You want them softened up before they come in?
Well, yeah, because I think North Dakota State, that's kind of their MO, right? That's firmly entrenched in their culture to be physical and to, take it right at people. I mean, they're cool to watch. I like watching North Dakota State's brand. Kleinerman's kind of taking that down to, or Kleeman, I can't even think of his name, Kansas State coach, is taking that brand
Kleiman
to K-State, right? Where it's kind of no nonsense. It's hit somebody. It's physicality. So, yeah, I hope Colorado comes in a little bit. They could. Tiger Shark Diver says NDSU might whip their asses. They might.
Mm-hmm. The problem is,
they're going to ball control for sure.
And I love NDSU, and they still have their brand, but they're not the NDSU that we think of from 5 years ago that was legitimately giant killers. They're not that anymore.
Beat Iowa. Good.
They're still a damn good football program. They're not that anymore. Yeah. I think if you're talking ideal result from Nebraska's point of view, it's Colorado struggles early in that game, coasts to probably a 10-point victory late. Because you want
38-17 type deal.
I was thinking like a 31-17, 31-21, somewhere in there type deal for Colorado. Because if Colorado loses, they're pissed off. If Colorado barely wins it, I think wake up call. We got to be on our A games for next week. Like the ideal result for Nebraska is Colorado to struggle early, to get a little bit physically beat up, end up winning the football game, but not in a way that makes anyone across the country go, oh, all our doubts about Colorado are misplaced.
I say this. I think you want something from a confidence standpoint that is going to push you to Listen, for Nebraska fans, the 90,000 of you that are going to be there for next Saturday and then the following Saturday, you want important wins. UTEP, is that important? Well, yeah, it's the first one. It's momentum. But then Colorado under the lights with that stage, you got to win that. You got to find by any means necessary, win that ball game. But if it's a tight ball game at Memorial Stadium, say it's Michigan-like from 2021, guys, I think that does wonders for you and this team that has been garbage in close games. You need one before you get to November. You need one before Rutgers, because that'll presumably be a close game. Vogues, what is it? 8 games. FPI says 1-score games is predicted this year.
Yeah, if you use the ratings there and kind of factor in a little bit of home field advantage,
get some good practice at it and find a way to win.
Yeah, that Colorado game is going to be, no matter what happens for the Buffs against the Bison, it's going to be an interesting challenge for Nebraska, for a program that hasn't handled things well. You're going to hear all the, it's just the next game on the schedule stuff by the time we get to that week. But, there's a lot of guys on this team that have to want to win that game pretty bad. Can you manage that? It's Colorado just by force of personality with that program under Deion Sanders kind of makes it hard for that to be we're a home favorite by 7 points, so we've got a little edge, but it's close to a toss-up. We'll just go make it look like that. The way Colorado is, and Nebraska's recent history there. I mean, they're 0-3 in their last 3 games against the Buffs, and those were not good Colorado teams. So there's just a lot in that game by the time we get to it.
And what has Rule been pressing on the most over the last 2 years? I think his most consistent message has basically been coaching against performance anxiety. Basically, right? It just seems like he's called that out multiple times. Of this team, they have performance anxiety. They read the Pro Football Focus stuff. When it's when the going gets tough, they're like, "Oh God, here we go again," and they get tight, right? And he's closed scrimmages to kind of help quiet some of that noise that gets out there. That's his biggest concern with this team. Is anybody here concerned about the positional coaching that they're getting, or their training regimen, or any of that? I don't think anybody's concerned that that's somehow lacking. Right? The guys seem like they're in good shape, seem like they're committed, dedicated, work hard, have good position coaches, all that stuff's there. But it's when the lights are on and when it's crunch time, kind of what are you made of? And to kind of bring it back to Colorado-Nebraska game, no player on that entire field has ever or will ever play in an atmosphere like that ever again. That, I mean, right? Can we all agree on that? There's nobody on Nebraska's roster that has played in that kind of atmosphere that they're going to run into. You might have had that atmosphere for for a quarter or two. You had that. I think Michigan 2021 was really
not been in Memorial Stadium like it. They've seen the other side. Yeah. They've been to Boulder.
Yeah, but that is going to be an absolute buzzsaw for both teams, and energy level in that stadium, the adrenaline level is going to be just off the charts. You can't prepare for it. You can't prepare for something like that. So it worries me a little that you have someone like Primetime who's like, bring on the lights. I thrive on the lights, right? That we have
Black Hills Brennan. I'd rather slam my junk in a car door than pick a winner between Colorado and North Dakota State.
but isn't that it though?
Brennan, to be fair, a known South Dakota State fan, big time.
Right. Yes. So
who is
taxes?
Who is going to be defiant enough to kind of break through that atmosphere, that electricity? Is Dylan Raiola, for as composed as he seems like he is, he's never played in a game like that. No one's No one on that
At least
field.
he's got Dad to lean on. Hey, Dad, what was Nebraska, Colorado like? I mean, you've got a great resource there.
You don't know what it's like to play in a rivalry game of that magnitude until you're playing in it.
No, I know.
And especially at the quarterback position. You know, Dom could just like whatever aggression he was feeling, just hike the ball, just go smoke somebody, right? Dylan's got to be chill. You know, he's got to be able to survey. He's got to. I mean, it's just that atmosphere is going to be incredible. And if Nebraska comes out on top of that, we talk about momentum.
Yeah,
Nebraska hasn't won in that kind of atmosphere in a long, long time.
Well, there's a lot of things to think about for 2024. One of which is getting a subscription, Vogues, to Counterread, counterread.com. You and Aaron Sorensen as we wind down, bud. What can folks anticipate here with an incredible season? Not only football, but it's volleyball tonight too.
Yeah. So kind of reads twice weekly Substack newsletter from Aaron Sorensen and myself. And funny, I've been doing a little bit of mental gymnastics here because a lot of the topics we're talking about are things I've been writing about for Monday for my season kickoff column. I think kind of to Mark's point, I think Matt Rule's biggest challenge, because I agree with you, like it all sounds great. It all sounds good to me. Like they're doing the things they did at Temple, they did at Baylor. He's trying to get his team to just play. And it's been a long time since that's happened at Nebraska. And that Colorado game is maybe the toughest game on the schedule, where it's like, ignore everything else, like just play. So have more on that on Monday. And then now we're into game week. Thursdays will be the big game preview that I like to do and have done in past years. This week we'll have some volleyball, of course, with the Huskers heading to Kentucky, and then have something I think new planned for Fridays this year, and then Saturday will be our game day guide. So that's kind of the layout. 2 of those newsletters are exclusive to subscribers. So head on over to counterread.com and check us out. Football season is here, and no better time to see if it's for you. You can sign up as a free subscriber initially, then right now.
Love it.
If nothing else, do it for the footnotes. Do it for the footnotes. Brandon's footnotes are like, that's content in and of itself, man. That stuff is brilliant. I love it.
Nobody should have given me the ability to have footnotes. It's an issue.
Do you make your season prediction this week?
I mean,
record.
I start writing about win totals and things in like January. So yeah, if somebody wants a season prediction, I'll throw one in there. But I kind of feel like I've talked it to death a little bit at this point. But yeah, I guess you got to put a number down.
Yeah, we got to put a number before we get out of here today. So you
do?
That's our assignment.
We're going game by game in about 30-something minutes.
Oh my goodness.
Be ready, Mark.
I'm ready. I've been playing college football 25, trying to get a feel for some teams, and Rutgers is for real.
Rutgers is good.
Lost maybe their best player on defense for the season, though. It's a tough blow for a team.
No good. Rush end, right?
Mm-hmm. Linebacker, but linebacker / rush end.
Yeah. Elijah's had the opportunity to make some money on foot picks this year. With
I haven't taken it, to be fair.
I know. I'm not saying you've indulged. I'm just saying. But Brennan's on the money again. Vogues, we'll talk next week. Appreciate you much, man.
Appreciate you. For Brennan, he doesn't want to make an FCS pick. I'll take one. I'll take the Jackrabbits to win in Stillwater.
Okay. Love it. There we have it.
Bold prediction. Where to go wrong?
Gary, I got you, bro. I got you. Is it a backwards hat kind of?
No, this is
my. How the hell are you? The Iron Horse is here.
Good. This is my tribute to Chad Smith, and we'll see how musically inclined the three of you are, if you know what I just mentioned.
Yeah, he looks like Will Ferrell. He's the Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer, and he always wears his hat backwards.
Yes, I've not shaved. I've actually been.
You've been on vacation, right?
I've been on vacation.
Where'd you go?
It's good. It's 6:30 where I am right now.
Where'd you go?
I'm on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's very non-specific.
Well,
I have family that lives in Southern California.
I was going to say, he's giving you the Chad Smith chili peppers.
Yes.
They're from L.A., dude.
Hey, I'm watching. It's weird. Like game day is on at 6 a.m. Are you guys watching this? This is bring back memories of places that you've seen, that you were, that you maybe did a McAfee and drank 30 Guinnesses.
We thought
memories is subjective. Memories? I don't know.
We thought McAfee was at the Mary Cobbler, which is where we did our shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
He was
Mary
not.
Cobbler was brilliant.
God,
it was brilliant.
But we checked in with our friend Jeff Colhane yesterday as he was at the stadium making sure all the cords worked. You could hear the stress in his voice. And that's kind of where I was at with that a year ago or 2 years ago. But no, man, I sent Kraynak a picture yesterday of him and I tipping a Coors Light as we were getting on the plane out of Omaha. So, yeah, I want to go back. And I'm glad Rule said, hell yeah, let's go back to Ireland. But first things first, let's see if 2024 works out okay.
Well, let's ask the question. If Nebraska were to play a destination game overseas,
it's Ireland again. It's
got to be. I was going to say, pick your favorite spot. What's your destination spot for Husker football? They've done Tokyo and Dublin.
I think so. So, the NFL is, in 2 weeks we're going to Brazil for a game. The NFL wants to do all these international games, and they've done them from Germany to England,
Mexico City.
Yeah, there's a thing here. Like that's if you're telling your guys Nebraska wants to become an NFL pipeline. Okay, they talk about the NFL all the time. They got NFL lineage up and down the hallways of the coaching office. Well, if you're going to play at the next level, this is the opportunity to play in these kind of games where you're going to go overseas. Your schedule is going to be disrupted. So I don't know if college football is ready to lean into this because there's something special about the experience on a campus. We have less neutral site games than we've had in the past. We still have the Chick-fil-A, we still have the Jerry's World game, we have a game in Vegas, but we don't have as many of those. Some of us old heads remember going to the Meadowlands to play a kickoff classic, or they used to have the Freedom Classic in Anaheim. So I don't know if college football will go all in on the international game, but I'm glad that Rule is open to it. I don't think they go back to Dublin.
Probably Mexico.
Maybe London. But here's the thing. Everybody that was involved in putting the trip to Dublin together is gone. So when you're starting to think about logistics of, okay, we'll agree to this game, but we're not playing the following week at home. Or if we agree to this game, I love something Florida State is doing. So Florida State doesn't have a bye week next week. They come home and they play next Monday against Boston College. Weird that you'd start with 2 conference games. Never heard of that before. But the fact that Florida State is doing something that I think Nebraska should have done, because Nebraska's lead up out there is, the guys went to the Guinness factory and they had a good time. And I don't know. I don't think Nebraska put the trip together very well from the player standpoint. But what Florida State is doing, Florida State is staying an extra day. So they didn't try and rush and get everything in to go sightseeing in Dublin. They're going to play the game and then they're going to go sightseeing. And I think that's the way to do it. But you have to have the people in place that are good with logistics to pull this off so it doesn't disrupt your schedule. And I don't think, I said this even before they went when I knew how it was going, like what they were doing on the ground. I didn't think, I didn't think Nebraska paid as much attention to the game, so to speak, of the game is the most important, then getting out and experience something you may never get to experience again in your life.
Gary Sharp with us, the Iron Horse
but the
Weekend Edition.
Nebraska was not prepared to go over there because Bill Moose jumped at the idea. He was like, oh, this is great. They didn't have a ton of inner office communication on how this was all going to roll out. When they agreed to done. When they agreed to the Illinois game, because they got us so enamored. Oh man, they want Nebraska. It's not our home game, so it doesn't cost us. We can go to Dublin instead of, all right, let's look at it. What does our schedule look like? What's going to happen when we get over there? What's going to happen when we get back? All of those things. Now, it doesn't take away from the standpoint of how you played the game, but I'm just saying you got to think about these trips more. And I'm glad that Rule is thinking about that because Nebraska has a brand, and why not expand that brand as far as it'll go?
Sharpie, let's dive in. I know you've been on vacation.
What has happened since I was gone? Have they named a quarterback?
They named the quarterback.
Yeah.
God, that was a great camp for Jalen.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Gramstead did a hell of a job.
Hey,
Okay.
Dylan Raiola was the starter at quarterback when he came out of the womb and wanted to come to Nebraska.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. But just from a feel standpoint, what's your reaction to Rule talking about the 9 and 7s and just the fact that there's not a lot of entitlement on this team, and he likes the old heads on this team?
Well, because
as you project to 2024.
Yeah, it's a weird team because they're kind of top heavy and they're kind of bottom heavy. They don't have a lot in the middle. So you are relying on these guys that you told last year, hey, give us a 2-year commitment. Stick with us, because first year might be a little rocky, but that second year, we feel like we can get you to where you want to go so that your experience at Nebraska is rewarding. So those guys hung on, and then they have added to the bottom. I always look, everybody talks about the top of your roster. Okay, who you got stars? I think Nebraska's done a very good job of supplementing their roster where they have more depth. But they said to the older guys, this is what we can do for you. They said to the younger guys, this is what you can do for us. And I think they blended that really, really well. But I also think there's something about the mere fact of guys haven't won and guys want to win. And we've all been involved in teams. We do shows together. We want to be successful. Is that when you want to win, there is something, you will do it for the greater good of the team than yourself if you're in it to win. And there's so many things that they have sold this team on winning, because guys want to win. But also look at this, going back to the NFL discussion. You get recognized by the NFL when you win. Yeah, you might be an incredible talent, but don't you think Tommy Hill's stock would even go up higher if Nebraska had a really successful season? Because NFL people are on your campus. They go to the winning programs. They look at more tape out of winning programs. They draft players from winning programs because they know what they're getting. So there are so many tentacles of Nebraska just simply taking a step forward and having a winning mentality and then backing it up on the scoreboard.
Man, I'm so glad you brought up Tommy Hill, too. What a reclamation project. And it goes to show, too, just how important it is to have coaches that can reach players. Right, the margin, the difference between being a first rounder and never even getting a look is actually not that big, right? It's not that big. I mean, imagine if Tommy Hill had just been like still bounced around between DB and receiver, and nobody had actually reached him, connected with him, coached him up, got him believing, all those things. And you saw at the end of last year, he was playing at a super high level. He made a couple plays against Iowa that are just like you haven't seen a corner make. Losing effort, obviously, but man, he has really positioned himself quite well. And we were talking to Brandon about this before, Gary. It's like the one consistent theme from Rule has kind of been about it's been more mentality than just about anything else. And how he just really feels like the team has performance anxiety collectively. Right? I mean, without saying it, that's sort of what he's saying. Is there any indication from your sources, you're very well connected, that maybe that is nipped? or is it that you just don't know until you're playing against Colorado under the lights on national TV?
I think that's a great, I heard the tail end of that. And that's a really good discussion. Because this program has gone, in my opinion, just players that I know that I've gotten to know over the years from their time in high school and now playing at Nebraska, is they've gone from the transition of figuring out why they weren't winning. Now they've gone to the transition of how do we win? And we have the pieces in place, but how do we win? And how do we get validated for what we're doing and answering that question? And then we get validated. And then what do we do next? I think the program, if we had to play, and this is a good thing for everybody. Like a week out from the season, give me one word about this team, whether it be your outlook, whether it be your personal observation of them right now. My one word, guys, would be authentic. I don't think there's any actors on this team. I don't think there's any fake bravado. I don't think there's any, well, I'm just going to say this and I'm going to pray to God that they are able to back it up. Rule has been pretty consistent about this is a good team. He's been saying that for months now. He hasn't backed away. I think authenticity will help this team because when you have authenticity, you believe in it, you trust, and that's a big thing. That would be my one word. I would be curious on you guys if we played a one-word game on a week out, your observation of this team or the one word about Nebraska football 2024 that comes to mind.
Composure. We said this Monday or Tuesday of this week, and the success of this season comes down to composure. How do they handle
good word
3-point game, 7-point game? There's going to be 8 or 10 of them this year, and NFL like, right? I mean, you're gonna be in a 1-score ball game. You've got some dudes, you've got some vets. Are they able to just go handle it? And you're not expected to win them all. That doesn't happen unless it's special season. And I don't think they're there yet from a playoff or championship standpoint. But how do you are you composed, man, when it's nut cutting time? So that's my word.
The word I'm going to go for is, and there's a bit of a joke intended here, primed. Like, I think this team is confident in the work that they have put in. I think that they know that they were hard workers. They were chasing 3 all off season long. I think that they are confident in the work they've put in. I think they need to see it on the field. I think they need to get out there against UTEP and show that, hey, all that hard work that we put in this offseason was for a cause. We're going to step out there, putting yourself in the shoes of players, and go out there and compete and perform and show everybody, hey, it's not the same old Nebraska team. I think they're primed for it. I think they still got to go do it, though. Like, you prime your lawnmower at home. It's not a guarantee it's going to turn over. But, hey, it makes it a lot easier. That's how I think this team is.
Mark?
It's similar. To me, it's prepared. And it's interesting. You go down the roster, which is what I'm doing right now. I'm scrolling through. And anybody with the word senior next to him, now keep in mind that could be a 4th year, 5th year, or 6th year guy, right? There is not a single one of those guys that is like a who? What's that?
No. Yeah.
Never heard of that guy. That guy didn't play. Like, not a single one. Every single one of the seniors are meaningful contributors, if not starters, right? Like, Ramir Johnson would be the one where you're just like, don't know if he's going to start necessarily, but you feel pretty good about him, right? And you know what he's about. So that's what you have at the top of the house now. There have been past senior days where, they announce a guy and he comes running out. And you have no idea who he is. They haven't played. Or
you want him gone.
So it kind of gets to Gary's point, though, of just being, pretty top heavy and bottom heavy. Your top are all dudes. Mm-hmm. Every single one of those, they are dudes. They are starters. They are great examples. They obviously have stuck it out, or they have transferred in and have had success previously. So there's some grown ass men, right? Look at where you're gonna have like what 3 6-year guys on the O line, right? Yep. And then Mazuka is a 5th year. I don't even know what he is.
This is his last rodeo. Yeah, he's a 5th year guy.
So
3 programs.
So on your O line, 4 of your 5 are 5th or 6th year guys. Like,
that's take awesome.
That. Mark, right? You're absolutely right, because they're still going to go. They're still in comparison. They return amongst college football the most starters, but overall, if you go through the players in the program, they are still true freshmen, redshirt freshmen. They have a ton of guys. So that's a great observation. That their top end, they're all contributing. They're all finding their way onto the field. So it's the balance of, Nebraska's going to have some guys out of this freshman class that are going to get on the field right away. So you get validated in your development and your evaluation. But you also are going to have some guys that we threw on the scrap heap that are at the top end of this roster, a little bit older, that are going to get back on the field. I want to go back to something you guys said. And I'm wondering if this has been a discussion about Tommy Hill. And everybody is keeping their fingers crossed that we get the Tommy Hill of November. Because remember, we had September and October, and we'd say the Tommy Hill experience, where Tommy would make 2 great plays, and then there'd be one boneheaded play during a game that seemed to get magnified. But I want to go back. Travis Fisher, this was the last year that Travis Fisher was at Nebraska. Do you guys recall what he said about Tommy Hill?
Mm-hmm.
He said Tommy Hill has a chance to be one of the best defensive backs at Nebraska. We went, huh? And remember, by the end of that year, he was in Iowa City on the other side of the ball playing wide receiver. Go 2 years later, all of a sudden, he's being projected to be a first-round pick. So it shows you that when you have things in place to develop guys and evaluate guys and communicate with guys from top to bottom, and you believe in guys, some guys, all of a sudden, it changes. There are a couple of guys on that list on this year's team that we said, I don't know about him because I haven't seen anything, that maybe they get the Tommy Hill. Who's the Tommy Hill of 2024? That 2 years ago, you went, come on, man, quit blowing smoke. 2 years later, you're going, that might be a dude. That might be a legitimate dude in the Big Ten Conference. Because there seems to be a guy a year that makes that jump. Where is that guy this year?
I think that guy, and it's been out of his hands because of injury, but on the offensive side, it could be Fedoni. I mean, I think Thomas Fedoni with a quarterback that is going to want to have that safety blanket, and Fedoni's talented enough to be that mismatch. Is many toys as there are to play with at the skill spot. I think it's going to be bread and butter tight end that moves the chains and then makes it happen after the catch. The yak yards are going to be fun this year for Nebraska.
I got a couple guys on offense. I'm going to say Emmett Johnson. I've been a fan of his since the beginning. I think he has true breakaway, house it kind of speed. He's probably put on 20, 30 pounds of muscle since he's gotten on campus. He looks great. And his attitude and he's very cerebral too. So I think he's not necessarily the guy that's going to have the natural feel that maybe like a Brandon Jackson had or somebody like that. I think he's more an Abdullah type where he's going to study it, break it down, and develop that feel, right? But getting the snaps that he did. So physically, he's an incredible athlete. He's probably one of Nebraska's top 5 athletes, and you have him at running back. So that's a good thing. I'll put him there. And then a little maybe surprise pick because he doesn't have the measurables and he got torched last year. But I am still very high on Hartzog. Love Malcolm Hartzog. I just think he reminds me of like a poor man's honey badger. I think he was out of position at corner, but since he has walked on campus, he immediately rose to the top, and the coaches and the rest of the players immediately respected him. So there's something there. He was playing injured last year. He was playing out of position. He didn't look great, but put that guy as a safety, put him in the box. I think he's a guy that gets turnovers. I think he's a guy that fills holes. I think he's physical. And you saw he's one of the guys that just got one of the single-digit numbers too, right? So he's been respected since the second he walked on campus, and I think he had a bit of a sophomore slump last year. What about you, Elijah? Chris left, so I guess that's your turn. We're looking forward to having Chris back.
Dare I go Mazuka on the offensive line? That's what I may go Mizzou on the offensive line. One thing I'll say about him is how many times this offseason did we hear man, Micah's the guy that just has to figure out how we do it around here. I will say, I'm not sure we ever heard the report from the coaches he figured out how it's done around here. But that being said, he is still a guy that's going to be relied upon for this offense line. I do think he probably had a better idea. But there was, from what we heard from the coaches, never that light bulb moment of, this is how I do it around here. I think Mazuka is just one of those guys that is so good that you're not going to be able to keep him off the field because he's so large and so strong and so violent. I think that's a guy that can get the nasty on the offensive line back to where you want it to be. And Nebraska's lacked a little nasty on their offensive line. I think he's a guy that kind of returns some of that same defenses should be fearing offensive lines just a little bit.
He's good. He's good.
Mazuka's a guy that instills fear in defensive lines a little bit because he's that type of nasty player. Could be a guy that looms large in the upcoming season because in a Matt Rule offense, in a Matt Rule system, like you got to win along the lines of scrimmage. It starts with your offensive line, and it starts with a guy in Mazuka. I think that kind of sets the tone for what an offensive line needs to be in 2024.
I'm glad you brought up Mazuka because, he got here and, his brother is in the program as well. And they really, really like his brother.
Walk-on running back. Yep.
Yeah. So lineman gets here, and there might have been a little bit of entitlement of, I came from Florida. You guys pursued me. I'm here. What do you got for me? And there was a time, it was about 2 weeks left in spring. They kind of had a heart-to-heart. And kind of like, that's not what we do around here. Everything is earned. You have a chance because of where you've played and your skill set to be a starter, but you got to earn it. And it kind of started to shift. And so by the end of spring, he looked more like what Nebraska thought they were going to get. And then summer kicked in, and 3 letters began: NFL. This is your last chance. If you want to play at the next level, we'll help you get there, but you also got to help yourself. And you have seen that transition. And I think that's why Rule yesterday brought up, we want people to earn the job here. There are a couple of transfers, whether they be from Florida or USC, that had a hard time adjusting to that idea. And all it took was just a reminder that Nebraska is not like Florida. It's not like USC. You got to earn it here. Nobody is entitled. We need everybody on the same page. And all of a sudden, those guys that you went, wow, nobody's talking about Mazuka. Nobody's talking about Sire Wright. What's going on here? But they mentioned we have standards here. All of a sudden, it's no coincidence that as we've gotten into the second half of camp, those are 2 guys that get mentioned more prominent. And when you watch them, they're either running with the ones or they're getting a lot of reps with the ones. So they've established that internal stuff. I want to go back to Hartsock. First of all of us that are in the quad box right now should love Malcolm Hartsock because unlike the Kendrick Lamar song, Not One of Us, he actually is one of us. Malcolm Hartsock wants to be a broadcaster. Okay.
Oh, really?
Yes. He wants to be a broadcaster. Everything
like us. Yeah. Okay,
great song, by the way.
Yeah.
I see
it's on a lot. I heard it. Yeah.
He did it. Yeah. Mark, he did it 5 times at the Forum. He performed at the Forum. Dr. Dre came out. They were putting on a show.
It was legendary.
And then, because he knew.
Were you in a switch?
No, but I wish I was there. I love the song. I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan. Don't forget. We once had a football coach at Nebraska that took a picture with Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar came and talked to the Nebraska football team. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike Riley had a picture with Chance the Rapper and Kendrick Lamar. Nobody has as much drip as Mike Riley. Okay? I've not seen any other coach that is with a rapper. Okay? Zach Bryan, not a rapper. Okay.
No.
So back to Malcolm Hartsock. Everything you said, Mark, is absolutely true about last year. He had a bad last year. And you know what? He recognizes that.
Yeah.
He got on his skis and Minnesota's Daniel Jackson abused him. Remember the first game last year, the touchdown. Great move by Jackson. Malcolm was like, whoa. Because I think Malcolm was relying too much on his freshman year. Because he was pretty good as a freshman. Last year was not good. He got on the struggle bus and he could hear the clock ticking. And it was not good. Also, I think he got in his feelings because some guys had passed him. Now, they said, we're not throwing you away. We need you. And you balled out for us last year when we yo-yoed you. This is our idea for you. And I think that has helped him a lot, that they didn't lose faith in him. And I think it says a ton. And you can tell a little bit. I like Malcolm. I like Malcolm as the person. Okay. I know he's got to be better than he was last year. I think that's one of the sneaky things about the single digits that were mentioned is that one guy that nobody would have said, I think Malcolm Hartsock's going to get a single digit. No one.
Right.
Malcolm Hartsock got a single digit. It's not only the play, but the guy said, you know what? I can't let last year impact me this year. and I'm going to work to get the spot and to get trust back in my teammates, because there were some guys that were like, Malcolm, where'd you go? So I think that's huge. And, they have all those kind of guys. If they can all come together, guys that are in it for the greater good, that have gotten better from last year, because the program has to be better from last year. And that's not just helmets, it's also headsets.
I think it helps Malcolm to be in a position, and we let off with this, but I want to make sure it helps that he's in a position that other teams can't just go, oh, hey, let's get our 6'3" wide receiver matched up on him and run a fade
slot.
Yeah.
No, you're right, Elijah. He's a little bitty fella. I mean, the one thing about that picture is that not everybody looks like Ty Robinson. Okay.
Yeah. Oh God.
And Buford
exactly
and Hartzog are a little bit bitty, itty bitty guys. But that when you're 5'9", and I'd say Malcolm's 5'9", 5'10". You can't let that deter you. And he did get, and you're right, Elijah. There are bigger wide receivers in this league that will pick on you, that are 6'3". Well, if you play your position correctly and technique right, there are some ways to overcome that. And I think you'll see that this year. But I also think what Deshaun Singleton stands for and the way he plays, I think Malcolm Hartzog will try and do the same thing, where you're not afraid to stick your head into things, like get up and get into a run fit, like Singleton was so good before he got injured against Michigan.
And I don't think Hartzog's ever been scared of that. Right. No. I think, but get him out on the edge against a top flight receiver, that's
just a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup that
don't you guys think
the right way?
Don't you guys think that guys are in the right position where they're supposed to be this year?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't look at Hartzog and go, cornerback? No, they're not going to allow him to go play cornerback. So they got guys like, Garrett Nelson. Garrett Nelson physically is not ready to play tight end, but they have him in the right spot where it benefits the team. And I think, we're gonna see. We always say, Corcoran, man, would he be a better guard than a tackle? Well, we don't know. But for the most part, I think this roster has guys in the right position where they're supposed to be, not trying to fit them into something that they can't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and man, you said it too. Marquise Buford, he's been playing a lot of corner, right? Yeah, and that's not been his be
the oppo corner of Tommy Hill. That's the feel.
And that's not been his past. He's been an undersized safety. But you look at his build, he looks a lot more like a corner than he does a safety. I mean, he's like Nebraska's David Goggins. My God, have you guys watched the Chasing 3? That dude, my Lord.
Hey, does if you were giving out awards for fall camp from the last time you saw Nebraska, how quickly does Corey Campbell get an award?
Corey gets whatever Corey wants.
They look different. Even Raiola, who I thought towards the end of spring, because he really hadn't been in the strength and conditioning program full time, it'd been a short amount of time leading up to spring ball. He had kind of he's always going to have like a dad bod, but I looked at his bottom half. I mean, he had a big trunk and his legs were not defined. Like, you look at him now, he's got some defined legs. He still doesn't have big legs, and I don't know if he ever will. But you look at some other guys, like some guys are defined. Even the young players that have been here since January, they look like a Big Ten team. Now, can they play like a Big Ten upper echelon team?
Can I just refute for just 1 second, Gary? I'll wait to give Corey Campbell an award until I see how it looks in the fall, because we did say some similar things with Duval. Like, oh, these guys look different. Like, they look bulky.
They're bigger. Well,
they did, though. They got bulky.
They did. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it led to the best football. Like the I don't think they necessarily built those guys in a way that led to the ideal modern football player. I'll wait on anointing Corey Campbell until I see, like, man, are these lines of scrimmage going to hold up in the Big Ten? You're getting rough and tumble football. Like,
that's fair, but I'm going to give you an example where this is what I would put up against what you're saying, Elijah. Bryce Benhart. Bryce Benhart, one of the biggest things that was different for him last year, why I think he had success, is they changed his body. He could bend a lot more last year. He couldn't bend under the previous strength and conditioning and the way they built his body. They looked at him and they looked at him individually at tape before they ever played a snap under the Matt Rule and said, okay, what limits him? Because this guy's a good football player. And they looked at just the way that they had his body. And you're right, Elijah. They were all over the map with guys. But you remember, the head coach and the strength and conditioning coach are together. The strength and conditioning coach doesn't go rogue. Head coach has got to say, hey, we would like to do this. They looked at Benhart's body, and Rule looked at him and said, hey, I think he'd be a lot better if we worked on this part of his body where he can just simply bend. And I thought that was a huge improvement last year. But that's fair, Elijah. Let's see him go through another cycle of strength and conditioning. But look at some of the younger guys, if they are ready to play. And also look at James Williams. James Williams was kind of raw, and he was out there just kind of, going and sacking the quarterback.
Skinny looking.
James Williams has a Big Ten rush end body right now.
Yeah, and I think the difference between Duvall and Campbell, and this is a novice outsider's observation, but it feels like they really over-indexed on the power side of things, on the strength side of things, and not the athleticism,
flexibility, quick
flexibility
movement
side of things. Right. Whereas it feels like Campbell is a little bit more leaning towards that, because you remember they were all about talking about who squatted the most, who benched the most under Duvall, and it was all about absurdly heavy weights and squatting them. And those are feats, man. Those are huge achievements. But think about like Nash, for instance, right? Nash rolls in. He's squatting 750 pounds. It's like awesome. But
Can he move 3 feet right and make a tackle?
Yeah, he moves like a Coke machine, right? So, like, what are you gonna do there? But instead, now he's trained up more as an actual athlete. They're training fluidity, they're training explosion. So it's different approaches, and you kind of need both. Like, I think Nebraska was so far behind. That's what was alarming Frost when he first got here. Was just like, oh my God, these guys are just weak. They're not physically strong. Like, we got to get them strong. But think about like how it changed with each guy too. Like how much Adrian Martinez yo-yoed, right? Yeah. Oh God, we got to put pounds on him. Oh, we better take him off. Oh, we better, right? It seems like there's a profile that they train now, which is athleticism kind of above all else.
Well, and here, I'll give you a little insight. So, again, we're not strength and conditioning people, okay? No. So we're not experts talking on this. We can only see results on bodies and injuries and all that kind of stuff. Is the head coach very much has a say in strength and conditioning, okay? That's one of the most important hires that you'll make right when you get the job, is who your strength and conditioning coach is. Back when Duvall was the strength and conditioning coach and you had nutrition and you had other elements of Husker power, I thought you had a lot of people that were territorial, okay? Instead of taking down walls that everybody is under the same umbrella of Nebraska football, there were people like, no, I've done it this way. This is how we're going to do it, instead of a line of communication. And I think you've seen under Rule, because they talk about it, and the people that are in charge of nutrition or strength and conditioning come together to talk about it, that there are no walls. There is no territorialism, if that makes sense, where it's, this is my part, don't tell me what to do. They're all more in line to, again, reach the common good and the common goal of being successful and making each athlete successful in their own right. And I thought that became a thing of, hey, don't be treading on us. This is Husker power. This is how we've done it. We're going to do it this way.
Sharpie, I want to get a number. We got to get our numbers in order for the weekend edition. A week from today, it's single barrel. It's the road show. It's a season we've been waiting on.
Can I just say one thing about the schedule? And I know it's an afternoon kickoff next week. Have we talked enough about how crazy it is that the college football gods have allowed Nebraska to play 3 straight night games after next weekend?
It's awesome. I can't wait. It's going to be incredible.
Been a minute. It has been a minute, especially with the advent of what they're doing after quarter 3, and dimming the lights and everything. By the way, was talking about this yesterday. How come there isn't a second half tunnel walk ish? Why doesn't that exist?
I don't know.
No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, why doesn't that happen? Why do they just get to just sort of leak out without any fanfare? Like, why wouldn't you buzz that up too? Right? I just,
no one's refuting it. Send it up the wire. It's not a bad idea.
Yeah, right. It's just sort of like, why doesn't that happen?
Mark, can we fix the kick off the game tunnel walk first?
Well, what do we want to fix about it?
Well, there's timing. I got to get the timing right. Also, here's and I don't know if this is an get off my lawn or just an observation of somebody that was there the first time they ever did the tunnel walk. I don't think guys, by the time they get to the tunnel opening, are as hyped as they used to be. I think they should get rid of the doors. Okay. Why are we opening up the doors? I know they do it with servicemen and women, but why do we need the doors? Okay. They come down the tunnel. People in the whole stadium can see them. They can get hyped. I just don't think guys are hyped once they get to the opening of the tunnel. But they got to do something about the timing because of where they come out of now. Hopefully they fix that. And maybe the tunnel walk will still be cool, which it still is a great tradition. They just need to tweak it a little bit. And it'll be different, guys. And maybe it'll be more impactful this year is because where you come out, you will run to your sideline instead of, you run out and you take a left-hand turn.
Right.
You'll actually come out of the tunnel walk and you're running straight to your sideline now that Nebraska has moved sidelines.
So they're coming out of because last year they
northeast tunnel and they're going to the west sideline.
Yeah. Got it. Oh, so they're running straight across. I got you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of a short tunnel walk too. It's not a very long tunnel. Thank you, by the way. Grateful Red. Yes. Grateful Red just made a post, and I've been saying this for years about what they should come out to. He said play Corn blind. That culminates in the "Are you ready?" and there's right 100%. Like, go listen to that every time. It's like that's when the lights go off. I mean, we could orchestrate this thing. I was literally just talking about that very recently. About how we need to do that. Start a band for the tunnel walk, says Tiger Shark Diver.
I think we could do a hell of a performance.
I can play guitar.
We could do Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. Gary can do the I See Dead People.
Anybody else? Anybody else here play instruments or have any?
I played a lot of trombone back in the day. I'm not sure if that helps.
I played the bass drum because I was a fat kid and could hold it.
We could use that. Bass drums, like that gets the heart. How about you, Chris? Any kind of music that? He's on mute. He's on mute. There you are.
Saxophone.
Sax, trombone.
My brother played the drums. It was hell.
Guitar. I can make some music out of that.
This whole discussion, though, it's just like, for God's sake, just win. So we don't have to talk about a cashless stadium, poor wireless, the tunnel walk. We can actually just talk about a team that plays in that stadium that wins friggin' football games in September, October, and November. And then
what's the number? December. What's the number as we wind it down? What's our number? Going 8.
8 is.
Where are we going to go game by game?
8 is the.
We can.
We got to.
8 is the number.
All right.
But I will give you a caveat. Anything above 7 is gravy, in my opinion, because this year sets up next year.
All right.
Do we have a spreadsheet going right now? Would you like me to fire one up, everybody? Okay.
Sure.
We get a spreadsheet going.
If you want it, feel free. I have my notebook here.
That's not digital. That could be.
If you want the digital, you can go digital.
All right. Let me just do this real quick. Okay. As we go game by game, we're going to do columns. We're going to do rows. The rows of the games. So we got UTEP. We got
Colorado.
We got Northern Iowa.
This is wonderful.
Illinois. Yeah. Purdue. Rutgers. Indiana. Ohio State.
God, the scheduling gods have given Nebraska an incredible opportunity in the start of the 2024 season.
USC. Wisconsin.
Who's that? Who's after Ohio State?
UCLA. And then USC.
Wisconsin. How about November, Sharpie? Kraynak,
And then
Elijah.
Iowa after Wisconsin.
Yes, Mark.
Yeah.
People talk about one game you want to win, and UTEP is the most important game because it's next week and it's game one. And we know what Nebraska hasn't done, winning an opener in a while. I mean, Nebraska hasn't started 2-0 in a while either, guys.
No.
I don't know that you can let another year go by where that streak of losing against Wisconsin continues.
Exactly.
2012 is a long time
bad.
ago.
It's so bad. It defies logic too. It's just
What's the stat? Nebraska's 1-10 against Wisconsin since joining the Big Ten. Is that the stat?
beat him in
2012.
12. Yeah, Bielema, and then he fired his line coach right after that.
Or is it 1-11 after last year now?
They're 1-11.
Well, you've had plenty of opportunities. You just haven't been able to complete it. I mean, I don't see a fat kicker kicking a 48-yard field goal in Memorial Stadium ever again in my life.
No, Gaglione. Uh-huh.
Or Nebraska running a stretch play with Amani Cross on their own 3-yard line.
Yep. Why go north and south, Sharpie? Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Here, ready to go.
UTEP, yes. Win. Go Big Red. 1-0.
Whoa! We're really flying through that. No more analysis than that.
Well, we got to still save a little bit for actual Saturday game day, don't we?
Yeah. Can we just all say that's a W for all of us, right?
Yeah. Right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Because we'll dive into why it's a W next Saturday at the Single Barrel.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
The Buffs. Tight one, but I think Nebraska. I mean, they've got to get it done. Channel your Marty Schottenheimer NFL films. What's more is you got to get it done, and I think it's a win for me.
I'm a believe it when I'll see it type of guy. Nebraska mental fortitude. It's a question for both teams, I think, coming into it. Both Colorado, the team of mercenaries that they have, and the way last season went for them, and all the questions this offseason. Is that a team that has mental fortitude? I think you can ask the same question of Nebraska, given all the one-score losses and the scar tissue that they have to overcome this year. Does a 5-star quarterback help that? Probably. In game 2, Memorial Stadium gets juiced up. What happens if the nervous energy hits the crowd? That's kind of what concerns me. What happens if this game is close in the third and fourth quarter and that nervous energy hits 90,000 people? How does a freshman quarterback respond? For that reason, I got to go with Colorado. I think it's going to be a damn good game, but I'll take the Buffs in that one in my season prediction, just because it's such an unknown how Nebraska is going to respond with the new quarterback, how Dylan Rilo is going to respond whenever, 90,000 people clinch. What's going to happen there?
All right, Gary.
It's going to be a close game. I think Nebraska will have 8 of their 12 games, by the way, will be 1-score games this year.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to reverse that trend of continuing to beat teams that have been in your neighborhood, the Illinois, the Purdue's, the Northwesterns, i.e. last year. And then you have to beat some teams that you are in the similar neighborhood. So there's going to be close games. But back to Colorado. I think Colorado will be tougher than people want to give them credit for. And I might be just saying that because I think early on in the year, Colorado will be okay. Mm-hmm. And they will have the 2 best players on the field that night. They will have Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter will be the 2 best players on the field when that game kicks off. Close game. I think Nebraska finds a way to win it. This will be the test because one of my biggest concerns this year, guys, is this coaching staff in game. I thought last year, whether it be coin toss, some clock management, some in-game management, some player in-game management was not very good. Will that be taken care of because the players are better or because they learned their lesson? I tend to believe that they will make a stride as coaches in-game, and this will be one of those games that in-game, the 2 coaching staffs will decide this game, not the talent on the field. I'll give Nebraska a slight edge, but let's hope this game does not come down to a field goal.
Amen.
I think Nebraska will have a decided advantage in terms of experience, cohesiveness, trench warfare, and I think that'll be the difference. So they'll take Nebraska in that one, and I think it's probably by double digits. All right, Northern Iowa.
Win.
Do we want to break this down a lot?
No.
Or just go ones across
the board.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Illinois win, tighter, probably 10-point ball game. That might be Illinois' Waterloo. I mean, depending on how their season goes. I like Nebraska, though, at home on a Friday.
I think it's probably uglier than Nebraska fans would like, but that Illinois offense is also going to be ugly. Their front seven has some question marks. Give me Nebraska to win that game. Uglier than you'd like, maybe more similar to last year than you'd like, but something like a 21-7 ball game.
You want to talk about sweat fest? You go on the road against a bad team in Purdue. Kraynak, are you in on the Big Red over Illinois?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I got him listed there. Yep.
Purdue. Are you mature? Can you go on the road and handle your business? They do, but it's not as nice as you'd like it. I got to go Rutgers here. I got to go.
Yeah.
I got to go Rutgers with the win in Lincoln.
Don't put me down for Purdue just yet. I'm scared of that.
Are you kidding me?
We got to pick.
Have you not watched the past decade of Husker football?
I have, but they're a freaking nightmare. They're a nightmare.
You're going to say they're a nightmare.
They are.
For what reason?
Well, they don't have much offense. Their defense is in shambles, and
there's
going to be four people there.
To be fair, that's what concerns me about Nebraska's in this spot the most. The fact there's going to be four people there. You got Purdue. It's year 2 of them installing the new offensive system. Hudson Card's got another year under his belt. They got a transfer running back from both Illinois, and they returned Mockbee. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. Nebraska-Purdue. Put me down for Purdue win, actually.
Are you okay?
Elijah's got Nebraska 3-2 through 5. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean,
and Rome is burning.
Have you guys not watched the past decade? Because I have.
I know. Honestly, I got Rutgers. I'm not taking Nebraska in that one because I think you're facing a team that has a similar mentality. That's also experienced and old.
A year better. They went 7-6 a year ago.
Yeah, I don't like that one at all.
Sharpie, you got an objection? Or
Nebraska loses at home.
Yeah, you got that too, Elijah. Where are you at?
I'm taking Nebraska to beat Rutgers. Thank you very much.
The only one.
I'm not.
We're all taking, except for Elijah, Rutgers to beat Nebraska.
I think that's going to be a low-scoring football game. Rutgers is going to rely on their ground game. I think their defense is going to be pretty stifling, but I think Nebraska's got enough explosiveness that 1 or 2 big plays could win that game for Nebraska, especially at home. So I'm going Nebraska over Rutgers.
Indiana, Signetti, new coach. He's a winner.
I think this game is tough to predict on August 24th because Indiana has my attention. I just don't know what they'll look like by the middle of October. Will the James Madison Hoosiers, will they have adjusted? Because I love their hire. I think they finally got a real football coach at Indiana. But I don't think it's this year. But that game is also after a bye week. And if by chance Nebraska is unbeaten, everybody's going to be talking about Nebraska. And they will have been talking about Nebraska for 2 weeks. And they won't talk about this game, but they'll talk about the Ohio State game. I still think Nebraska finds a way to win in Bloomington, but that game might be closer than some think. And actually, if you have a look-ahead line, the line right now is not huge in that game. But this is one of those games, guys, that if Nebraska football is different, that game is not a challenge. Road game. Place you don't normally go to. It's only the second time since you've been in the Big Ten. You've been to Bloomington. It's ahead of a game that everybody wants to talk about, but you don't. And you are just coming off a bye week. If Nebraska is different, they win that football game, and I think they do.
I think the bye week and the response to get that home loss out of your mouth is the reason. I think it's refocused. They get it done in Bloomington.
I also have a win against Indiana for the Huskers. I think, as Gary said, I'm with him in almost everything, closer than people think. I think don't sleep on transfers just because they're from James Madison. I think that Indiana team is going to be salty this year, but I think they're going to be fighting for a bowl game. I think Nebraska is going to be fighting for 8. So give me Nebraska. I think they're the better football team. I think they get it done in Bloomington.
Not going to be kind. A lot of fight. Still a bit of a blowout. Is that the script when we're all in Columbus here on the 26th?
Are you closer to the Adrian Martinez is a freshman game or closer to the Tommy Armstrong, I got to go to the hospital, I'll be right back game?
Fake my own death game.
And I'm not saying those incidences, but the outcome of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Nebraska's gone to the horseshoe and just gotten absolutely kicked. But Adrian Martinez is a freshman. Remember that game?
That was there.
Nebraska hung around in that game for a lot longer than probably they should have. Now, Ohio State's roster is, best in college football.
Yeah.
But, what does Nebraska look like? See, this is kind of, I know we got to do this because this is what we do, but we have no idea what Nebraska is going to look like at the end of October.
No.
I mean, because what happens if they start to get consistency and they learn how to win and it's just week by week? I think Nebraska didn't deal with success very well. I'm always curious to see how Nebraska volleyball deals with losses. That tells me a lot about the inner workings because they don't lose very often. I think it tells you about the inner workings of Nebraska is how do they deal with when they start winning? Does it look like it's supposed to? Like it's just that's what we're here to do? Or does it like, oh my God, we won a football game? So end of October, I mean, we're 2 months out from that game. We have no idea what Nebraska will look like. I have a pretty good feeling what Ohio State will look like, but still, that's a national championship type team that'll be in Columbus. I want to see Nebraska look like they should be on the same field.
Sure, compete.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
compete. X's and O's. Ohio State will have more talent, but does Nebraska look like they belong? Not that they're like, oh my God, you know what? Woo! This game can't get over soon enough.
Well, I think Nebraska played the best team roster-wise in college football last year in Michigan. In terms of construction, how that team played, I think they were the best roster. I think for all that's been said about the schedule, I think Nebraska got the best roster in college football yet again whenever they go play Ohio State. That's kind of what I'm looking at in this game in terms of litmus test. You got absolutely murdered by Michigan last year. Michigan came in and kicked the hell out of you. How do you perform on the road against the best roster in college football? I don't think it's a win, but I think it's going to tell us a lot about this football team. And I think even the fact that I'm predicting as a loss, it could be confidence boosting for this Husker football team playing on national television. Everyone knows how the game went against Michigan last year. There's a lot of guys in the team that I'm sure that still looms large in their memory. That's still something that probably motivated them through the offseason. I know chasing 3 was the theme, but getting your ass kicked at home by the best team in the country will do that too. I think it's a game that is the next litmus test for, hey, how far is Nebraska away from being the kind of relevant program that fans want? It's a loss against Ohio State, but I think it's closer than maybe some people would expect as of right now, given the fact that Ohio State's roster is ridiculously good.
I think Nebraska's going to get their ass whooped by OSU. There's my official analysis on that one. It's possible. It's possible. Nebraska could come in. By the way, I changed the font to Comic Sans. You're welcome.
Thank you.
I've been more entertained by you trying to figure out an Excel sheet here.
So I've dominated it, actually.
Better than me.
Dominated it.
Have you guys ever watched the Excel speedrunning championships?
Mm-mm.
Where it's like they have a whole bunch of task people in Excel and you don't get to see it until you open the Excel file. It's got instructions you have to do as quickly as possible and they time themselves. Absolutely electric if you watch the Excel speedrunning championships. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I'm going to change this to Wingdings. And then we'll reveal it at the end to see what we came up with, right?
Sorry, emergency in the basement. What's going on? Where are we at?
We're back to UCLA. I think we've all predicted a loss against Ohio State. I think we're on to UCLA.
What is
Wingdings
that?
Doesn't work. Well, I changed the font to Wingdings, and it doesn't really work very well. So I'm going to change.
Gertie doesn't like it.
There we go. We'll go with this weird italicized font here.
Straight
okay,
ahead.
so
free that font.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, so nobody's got OSU. How about UCLA?
I think that's scary. I think UCLA's got a chance to surprise. I mean, everyone's getting in line to pile on them right now, but there's some talent there. Nebraska hangs on against UCLA.
I am not high on UCLA this year at all. They lost.
They may be ready to tap out by November.
That's what I'm saying. Their schedule is brutal. They lost 9 of their 11 starters on a defense last year. That was pretty dang good, but they also lost their
coach quit to take a part-time gig as a coordinator.
Yeah, I don't think UCLA is going to be all that great this year. I have Nebraska putting up a good amount of points on that UCLA team, and it might not look how Husker fans want, but I think it's a pretty comfortable win.
Okay. Where are you at, Gary?
Sharpie?
Win.
Yeah. Will
I can't figure out the right font.
I liked Comic Sans.
Did you?
Yeah.
You like that? Okay. Open to suggestions on that.
SC, anyone got Nebraska going out to Hollywood and getting a win?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Elijah and Sharpie.
I think this is the upset win of the year that Husker fans have been wanting. I don't think that USC defense is great. I think Nebraska's going to have a fantastic defense. I think if you can keep that USC team off the board, like Nebraska did for a Lincoln Riley team back in 2021 against Oklahoma, you give yourself a chance. I think the offense should be able to put up yards on that USC defense. I got Nebraska going to LA and getting a win there.
I don't
Chris,
like.
you did not, right? Yeah.
No, listen. I don't like Nebraska having to go out to 1 week. Your team's got to play, spread it around, and flag. 1 week you're playing flag football. The next minute you're playing tackle. Next week in Wisconsin, against Wisconsin. I don't like that shift, that style shift. So I think Nebraska loses to USC. I think Nebraska loses at home to Wisconsin, and I think they win in Iowa City.
Chris gets to 8. Okay, Elijah.
If we're just going to finish this out here, win against Wisconsin, it's time for that streak to come to an end. I think Wisconsin is going to be extremely down on themselves by that point. The wild card is they might be at 5 wins going into that game. Is their motivation to make a bowl game, or are they down on themselves? I think Nebraska goes and gets it done. As somebody pointed out in the chat, Coach Brandon, I think this is a Husker team that gets better as the year goes on. And I think that game will be a representation, but I do not have them beating Iowa. I think that Iowa defense is way, 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 way too good. And a night game at Kinnick does scare me.
Where are we at, Gary, for the remaining 3? USC, Wisconsin,
Nebraska
Iowa.
will win at USC. They will play like Utah against USC, which has been a nemesis to USC, where that game will be won in the trenches.
That's a great take. That's kind of how I'm feeling too. Great take.
But that'll be the
Iowa?
be the last time Nebraska wins this year.
Really? Okay. USC I don't like for a variety of reasons. I just think on the road, LA, that late in the year, I think you're dealing with some injuries. I think Lincoln Riley will scheme some receivers open. I don't know. I think their defense will be improved. I just think tough long road trip right at the wrong time of year. So I don't like Nebraska winning that one. I do think they get Wisconsin because I think just switching to that air raid, they are going to kind of, and losing Braylon Allen, they're kind of losing that physical. I think they're losing a little bit of that physicality on offense, and that's going to come back to bite them. And at Iowa, wow. Let's do it. 9 wins again. Same prediction every year. I feel like 9 wins is. I think Nebraska gets them in Iowa City. Their offense again is going to be so putrid. Nebraska at least holds court with them defensively. Offensively, I think Nebraska will be vastly superior to Iowa, and I think that'll be the difference. So there we go. We have this. Should we save this in a thing to pop up later so we can actually reference it?
Where we are right and where we are wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you guys this, and I know we're an extended time here. It's like we're playing soccer. What game this year will you go, wow, Nebraska football finally is different?
It's going to be.
Will it be early? Will it be middle? Will it be late? Where you can say when the game is over, yeah, Nebraska football. Don't say the word is back, but say Nebraska football is different.
I think you've got 3 mile markers this season. Colorado, are they different? Do they win? I think Ohio State. What's the gap? Assuming you beat Colorado. And I think Rutgers. I think Rutgers is a major challenge, because if you go 2-1 in those 3, somehow, I think your November could be pretty good.
Yeah, I look at November as being the point, because, as I said, with the freshman quarterback, a team that needs to build confidence, I think this team needs to get better as the year goes on. I look at either USC or Wisconsin. USC, because of what Gary laid out, the potential to be a Utah-esque team, that would be a massive shift. But I also look at the Wisconsin game because of the streak. I think that could be a representation of teams moving in different directions. I think that could be the game that kind of proves it. Hey, this team is not the team that we've been watching for the past decade.
Well, watch out. If Wisconsin actually is worth a damn this year, I mean, they won't. Schedule. I know, but their schedule allows them to flex. Like if they navigate that thing.
I just don't think they do. I think there's some people out there that are buying into what Fickell's building up there. I am not one of those people. I'll put it on record. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Well, they were so good with the phone booth. They need an offense though to go attract the dynamic quarterback. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Sharpie, when do you travel back, Big Cat? Or are we just moving to LA?
Let me say this. I think, and that spread right now is 27.5. I will learn a lot about Nebraska when they go to Columbus. And you don't have to tell me that things are different in a win. Remember, these guys talk like they're ready to get out of the middle tier. Okay? They see themselves differently in the Big Ten. Now, that gap between Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan to where Nebraska is still large. But you have an opportunity to be on the field with a team that you aspire to be like. You want to recruit that way. You want to build a roster. You want to have their success. What do you do in that game? Do you look like you belong? Okay? Physically, mentally. Do you have players that make plays when they need to make plays? Is it a game where you hang around? Because that line, I don't think will come down a ton from a huge number where it's always been. And I think you use Ohio State as a measuring stick, because think about the other side of this. If you go on the road and play in Columbus and you've had a good season and you feel good about yourself and you get your ass kicked, aren't we doing 2016 all over again? When actually it's not, because I think the structure is in place to not just collapse down the road, but they got exposed and you're like, okay, that's who they are. We're done with that. Okay, they're supposed to be different. They've worked to be different. That game's 2 months from now. How are you different when you play on that field with one of the best in college football? And Mark brought up the Michigan game last year. Nebraska was outclassed.
Yeah.
They looked like they should not have been on the field. In certain elements, they did, but not to play 60 minutes of football. So when they get to Columbus, regardless of what Nebraska's record is and who's playing, I want to be able to look at that team and go, yep, they're different. They may not have won, but you know what? They hung in there and they did all the things necessary to win those kind of football games. They just don't have as many weapons as Ohio State has. That's what I'd be looking for 2 months from now.
Mm-hmm. It's just pretty much +1 on everything you said. Because that is your benchmark. That's the only game, by the way, that we are all unanimous in having Nebraska lose. It's the only one. So we all get to 8 or 9 wins, but get there in very different ways. But I mean, you're exactly right. Nebraska was outclassed. Although, how much did Michigan's scouting I could swear I want to go back through and try to find it, but I could swear there was either a player or a coach during post game that said, and I'm paraphrasing, but said something to the effect of like, "Wow, they were good." It was almost like they knew what we were running, or something like that. I swear to God, but I couldn't find it anywhere. But it's probably in a transcript somewhere.
I think Elijah, with his crystal ball here in Purdue and just going out on a limb, if Elijah kicks all of our asses here with these predictions, we're going to kidnap him in future seasons to go to the boats. I mean, we're just going to go make some money.
Yeah, he's got us losing to us. I went to school there. To Colorado,
good save.
Ohio State, and Iowa. So you don't think Nebraska does well against black and gold teams? Apparently, like you just all black and gold teams that Nebraska plays, they lose to, no matter what. Colorado, Iowa, Purdue.
I'll forever be a former Southeast Knight at heart.
See,
That's
funny. And then you just throw in an Ohio State just for obvious reasons.
They're the best team in the country.
Hey, can I say something which is an interesting observation on my part, and maybe you guys agree with me? There's a lot of people. I know people that are 7-5, and that's perfectly fine. There are a lot of 8s. There are some 9s. There are some crazy people that think about 10. Yeah. But when you say Nebraska is going to be 8-4, or they're going to be 9-3, isn't it interesting that usually the first word of why is not Dylan Raiola? I think that's subtly a really good sign for Nebraska. Now, I'm not saying, hey, Nebraska will be 8-4 because I got Dylan Raiola. Okay, he's going to be a big part of it, but it's not automatically the default of, hey, they're going to be better because they got Dylan Raiola. It usually is going to be better because the defense is a year older.
Yeah,
I think that's a subtle. Okay, they got a guy. Look at how Nebraska's handled him. He doesn't need to be Superman.
Right.
He needs to be one of 11. That one is really good, but one of 11.
Yep. And if you're talking about a team that essentially just loses by one score all the time, you just need them to hit some sort of pass once a game that Nebraska hasn't been able to hit. Right?
Hey, they've set it up. They've set it up where he doesn't need to be a Heisman Trophy guy. If he is, that's just gravy. But he doesn't need to be the guy.
Mm-mm.
And I think that is a good sign of constructing a roster when you add somebody with his talent. Now, he's really good, guys. Don't say I'm not going to believe the hype. He's the real deal. He's absolutely the real deal. But he doesn't need to be Johnny Manziel in his first year for Nebraska to have success.
That's well put. That's absolutely well put.
They're not going to put it all on him like they did Martinez.
Well,
manage and make some plays.
Yeah. You learn from the past of, we have a great talent, but he's only as good as the people around him. And then in the back of your head, the caveat is this kid, as he grows in the program, could elevate players. We need to elevate him originally until he's ready to elevate guys around him. Mm-hmm. I know that's deep thinking, but some people have asked me this week, why do you think Rule always, the way they handled this, they didn't lead into the buildup and the way he talks about his quarterbacks? Because I think he knows if you took him off on the side, they're a quarterback-centric offense, and they have a dude, but they don't want to be known as a one-player program. They want to be known as a program that's got dudes up front that block for that guy, dudes that he turns and hands off to, and, of course, dudes that he's throwing to.
Mm-hmm.
The Iron Horse, Gary Sharp, Mark Kraynak, Elijah Herbel. Fellas, we are a week away. We'll get to it. Is there one more thing? Is there an objection?
You guys like Georgia? You guys like Georgia Tech, Florida State under 55 today?
I like it under 55, and I like Florida State by about 13.
I like Georgia Tech to cover.
I like where Elijah's going. 7-1-1 is the last 9 against the spread. Georgia Tech against Florida State.
I see
Florida State team as last year. It ain't the same team.
I feel like Florida State's amassed some firepower, and I can't remember the last good Georgia Tech defender.
It's just a weird game over there.
Yeah.
The crowd, how they react. It's not, you have your fans, but you guys were there. We were all there. It's just kind of a different atmosphere, so it takes a little time to adjust. And, you got to, Florida State's trying to figure some things out. Defensively, they're going to be really good. But Georgia Tech is one of those sneaky teams. That's what I love about this season is the expanded playoff, whether it's valid or not. There are more teams that begin either today or next week that have hope.
Yes.
They're like, man, this could happen.
It could work out.
Look at it. It's crazy. There are national people. I haven't seen any local people, but national people that throw Nebraska into a playoff conversation.
Our old buddy Joel Klatt loves the Big Red.
Whoa. So there are more schools and programs and fan bases that begin with hope of, wow, this could actually happen. And then also the caveat, guys, there's going to be a point where Nebraska football, hopefully it's in our lifetime, is going to host a playoff game at Memorial Stadium. How wild does that sound?
Well, I'll say, I think that, the expectation, if Dylan Raiola is the 5-star that we think he is, the expectation is you have to go to a college football playoff with that guy at the quarterback spot.
At some point, but it doesn't have to be year
and
one.
You're right. Your window, there are so many things that if he pops, there are so many things that Nebraska needs to take advantage of on and off the field, because your window starts at about 3 years, okay? To recruit to be successful, to build your brand, and that you move on to the next guy in 3 or 4 years.
Kraynak,
and you just keep rolling.
I was laughing at Will's last comment, second to last comment. Stop talking so we can get on with our day. But Will,
hey, we're gonna lead you up to kickoff in Dublin.
No, God.
There's one more thing.
One more thing, Kraynak.
There's one more thing. I also think you're going to be precluded from going too quarterback happy, too quarterback centric with Dylan because of his blind side. They're not going to feel great, whatever they say about Corcoran. Corcoran just has not demonstrated, being a top flight left tackle. That's all. I'm not saying the guy's terrible. I'm just saying, and you got Prohaska out, so you're pretty thin over there. So I just don't think, I don't think Nebraska is going to decide to just air it out 40 plus times a game all the time, because you're risking your franchise quarterback when you do that. So they'll be run heavy. They'll do play action. They'll keep it relatively conservative. But I think you got some dudes that once they get the ball in their hands, Barney, Nayor, Fedoni, they can make some hay. And so you can still be dynamic offensively without having to over-index on drop-back throws.
Junior is up from his lair downstairs, and he's asking the board here. He needs to put a bet down. What's Florida State win by?
Elijah's got good advice. I would take Georgia Tech getting the points.
Georgia Tech in the points.
Florida State wins by 7 is my prediction, which I think the line's 10.5. Is it still 10.5? Is that right?
Do I need to buy you a razor today? Yeah.
Right. The other one, SMU is legit. Hey, SMU is legit, boys.
Yeah.
Yep.
The best bet of the day, though, in my opinion, Hawaii rolls against Delaware State.
Oh, yeah. That's not even on television, is it?
It's got to be, right?
Oh, you can find a stream.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Just
Glad you can help you with that.
Just find a friend on TikTok that is streaming the game. You might have to put up with their commentary, but you can find it. Mm-hmm. If not, I got a guy for you, Mark.
Yeah, there he is. Chad Smith, a.k.a. the Iron Horse, Gary Sharp.
We have made it. What seems like the longest off season, and because it's, we're wrapping up a big political time, a big political week. As Ronald Reagan once asked, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Yes.
Is Nebraska better off than the last time they played in Memorial Stadium when they got beat on a last-second field goal against Iowa? When they take the field in, almost a week from today, are they a better program? And how much of a better program are they? So to quote the great Ronald Reagan, are you better off than you were 4 years ago?
Well,
And if you are, you know where your vote should be.
Yeah, good enough.
Mhm.
Sharpie,
I'm not being political. He's the only president that ever came to my grade school when I was a little kid.
I like that.
Because he was from Iowa in the Iowa caucuses. So I didn't really know who he was. And all of a sudden, a lot of people with guns showed up at my school, and he came into this big pep rally and, I think read us a book or picked up a book, and we were like, oh, cool. We get on TV.
Yeah, the book was called Win One for the Gipper.
You know who came to my school whenever I was growing up? Henry Winkler.
The Fonz?
Yeah.
What?
I got
the guy from Barry?
Yeah, Maxey Elementary School back in this is probably 06, 07. He came and read my class a book, my class.
I got Ron Brown, Southeast. Ron came and did a speech. Which was
Mark,
good.
you have any brush with greatness?
I can't not remember any kind of celebrity talking at any of my schools. Doesn't mean it didn't happen. I just don't remember it. So probably nobody that was that big of a deal. Nobody that was that memorable.
All of our teachers were in awe of Henry Winkler, and all the kids are like, who the hell is this guy?
My goodness. You know Buzz Aldrin's still on the speaking circuit? Did you know that?
I didn't know that. Huh.
Yeah.
It was only a couple of years ago he punched that guy that said the moon landing was fake. You guys remember that?
Yeah, he went gangster there. Sharpie, we will see.
Bob Barker once punched Happy Gilmore too.
I know.
Yeah.
That's
Buzz
all right.
still calls out the commies too. He is pissed. He hates the Soviets, even though that crumbled a while ago. He's seriously. Seriously.
I'm saying fare thee well
on that note, that's
for this Saturday. Punch the commies. It's pretty good.
Hey, the next time we're together, we'll be drunk.
Yes, it'll be good. We'll see you at the Single Barrel in a week.
I will be bringing. I will have some special beer. Quickly here, Bud Light is doing a UTEP can that is available in El Paso, and so a listener of another show that I'm on is bringing up a 6-pack. So I will have Bud Light UTEP beer for us to consume next Saturday.
Nice. And I will bring you some Cornhead lager as well, and we can do a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes, it'll be all right. Sharpie, you're awesome, brother. Thanks for making time this morning.
Thanks, guys.
Happy football. Happy football. Kraynak, you're awesome, brother. Good to do this another year with you.
Yeah, I'm attaching this Excel file. I will send it y'all's way. We got to remind ourselves. I maybe send a calendar appointment as well, just so we remind ourselves to pull it back up. I mean, did a lot of formatting on this thing. I don't want it to go to waste.
No, I get it.
So
appreciate all of you in the stream and on YouTube, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Check out the Average Joe Sports Show podcast as well. Hail Varsity Twitter at H Varsity Radio. Elijah, good to spend this time with you as always, brother. And we'll be back Monday as it is game week on Hail Varsity. Have a good one. Enjoy Florida State. Enjoy Georgia Tech. Enjoy football 2024.
And at this time next week, guys, we'll be pre-gaming. How beautiful is that?